What mug have you got there, Phil? What's that mug?
FM 104, Brisbane's greatest radio station, with a kangaroo with sunglasses on.
Is that in tribute to local radio, which pretty much is killed off this week in the UK?
I think it was probably in tribute to being in Brisbane once.
Solidarity with all my former colleagues who are losing work this week. And hey, it's 4020 not live. I asked people what did they want to talk about this week, and we've got a proper pizza. There's some pizza. Chicken and bacon. It did say on the packet, do not freeze, and I've frozen it, so might give that to the dog. She'll enjoy that. Here is Phil Kaplan. Here is Paul Bennett as we discuss another exciting week in the world of rugby league. I don't know where to start on this one because so much has happened since we were last here, none of which is to do with on the pitch, pretty much. Although I see Lee have pulled out of the 4020 News have just tweeted Lee have pulled out of the Ralph Rimmer COVID Cup. So it's really going to be between Bradford and Dewsbury, which is brilliant. Oh, and Barrow and Batley. No one's going to want to Barrow away, are they?
Are they, as I suggested in my 4020 column, going to play each other about 10 times and then have a grand final? I feel like that would be a good format.
Just have it all on one day. Yeah. Semi-finals, final. Thank you very much. At the at Dewsbury Stadium, the Tetley Stadium, and all done and dusted. Share the prize money. Off you go.
Toronto must be well glad they're out of this nonsense. Should we talk about pizza? Because we've got to talk about positivity and stuff. But on the pizza thing, have we just done ourselves in again by releasing a press release? Releasing a press release, great English. And then someone's realised, actually, we'll delve into this. We'll do a bit of journalism, rare thing these days, and discover that actually it's one of those contra deals, which, as I understand in business, happens a lot. It's not an uncommon thing. It's not a bad thing. You provide a service and, you get your name on a board or something. But at least it's kept Twitter happy today.
We've had a lot of fun, haven't we? Rolling out the pizza puns. It's been great.
You got to earn a crust.
Exactly, yeah. But no dough coming in. Contra deal, like you say, Richard. Contra deals are pretty common. I've no real objection to that. I think what I would question is the value, and it seems like Papa John's are getting a pretty decent deal out of this for some free pizza. They're getting it's not really the advertising boards, which are not that expensive, but the Twitter clips that we're putting out, the highlights of the games that we're putting out, and you get a free Papa John's pizza advert at the start now. You think that somebody would pay for that? I would have thought somebody would pay for that. It's just it's more of an issue, isn't it? Because of the whole Stobart deal. And of course, that was part of the reason. It was one of the sticks which was used to beat the RFL and led, of course, to the Super League breaking away from the RFL into the current situation that we have now. So it's funny to see Super League employing the same sort of tactics that they previously slaughtered.
I think there's probably two things here. One is, how do you announce news without leaving yourself open to exactly the kind of ridicule that clearly the sport has had? And I don't think you had to delve too far to find that it was a contra deal. It actually said it in the press release if you read it. But it's only to the end of this year in its current format. And I would have thought that if it had been couched in such a way that Papa John's have an intention of a renegotiated deal with the relevant financial security behind it over a 2-year period, and this is a trial to the end of the season, then everybody would have emerged with credit. At the moment, it just has like a couple of things in the last few days. We do know how to shoot ourselves in the foot when it comes to publicity. We can't manage it particularly well. The next thing no doubt we'll talk about is players who've been banned for breaching COVID regulations. And again, that story is has almost been forced into the open in a manner in which it should perhaps have been told in the first place, and we still haven't got all of that.
Don't be negative.
No, I think realistic. I just the whole thing is Papa John's is a nationwide brand, so to be associated with something like that per se is not necessarily a bad thing. The terms of how you are associated with that, you need to phrase your announcement in such a way that everybody seems to be getting something out of it. But the way we phrased it and have subsequently gone on to talk about it, we are quite clearly the poor relation in this deal for the remainder of this season. But if they do have an intention to test the market and an option on 2 or 3 years after this, then maybe it's not such a bad way of moving forward. But we have made ourselves a little bit of a laughingstock.
Because I can't remember these things way back at the start of the season, I noticed from the restart we haven't had a sponsor of the big screen for the video referee decisions. So we obviously lost a sponsor there in Patient Claim Line. There is room for new money into the sport. Maybe that's what they'll be sponsoring next year. Maybe it'll be the Papa John's pizza wheel decision roulette thing,
nice.
Which we all missed from last year. But it's all communication again. Communication.
Yeah. It's how you sell the message, and bringing on a new sponsor, like we brought Ron Seal into the England camp and never actually told anybody. It just sort of appeared on referee's kit, and then went, oh yeah, they're sponsoring us. Make a song and dance about it. Make it as vague as you like in terms of what you're actually saying. I don't know any major release that says the actual value of a deal anymore, be it, unless it's sort of the Premier League telling you how many trillions they've got from their latest television deal. But even that now is dropping off because it's less than it used to be, and they don't want people to pick up on a diminishing return. I just think it's not necessarily the joke that it's been played out to be. It could be a partnership in the future, but the way we've sold it or undersold it, always knowingly undersold, as is our strap line, we've left ourselves open, haven't we? But it's fair to say that every club does have pizza in the dressing room after a game these days. So those that have gone down the nutrition route, and I am completely the wrong person to ask about that, clearly, apparently it is the food of choice post game.
I've got to say though, if we're in a cost-cutting mood, and we are really, aren't we? Players taking wage cuts. I'm not sure Papa John's is the best place to be getting our pizza. It's massively overpriced. I'm sure there's plenty of good takeaways in the local vicinity of these stadiums that we could get them to ship them in for much cheaper.
Massively overpriced. What the hell are we doing giving them the sport for nothing then? I guess the other thing is there's a really good point there that there will be some clubs who have done deals with small local businesses to bring in their post-match pizzas, who now presumably have to find another way of involving them in the club or paying back some sponsorship money.
Mm.
Didn't that happen with Nike in at the start of the Super League war, that we all had to wear, every team had to wear the same kit? But the bigger clubs rebelled because they had significant deals with other firms.
And they were awful kits as well, from memory. I mean,
well, it was one kit with just different colours on, wasn't it?
I mean, Super League should have done the smart thing and asked our former guest Sophie Robinson, because I think she's had pizza from everywhere in Leeds. So when the games were heading, they should have known where to go. Everyone's been very excited about pizzas today. I asked people on Twitter what to talk about. Music Max says it smacks a bit like a pub team, does it not? Free catering for sponsorship. David asks us, what about pineapple on a pizza? Is that a good or a bad thing?
Bad.
Oh, I can go with that. It's one of your 5 a day. That's what I get away with.
Danny Kerman, I've heard of him. Can't see the problem. They were stuffed crust this week. So, benefit. I mean, the bad news.
What were?
Hey.
Wakefield were.
Hey. These bad news for Nando's. If all these players are getting free pizzas, Nando's shares will be falling through the floor as we speak. What gravy goes with pizza? Asks the great man League Freak in Australia.
Any gravy?
Because we just eat gravy, don't we? These Australians with their
Oh, okay.
stereotypical ideas of us.
I see.
I mean, I've watched the Footy Show. They appear to all be, casual racists, but it's different. I'm only joking.
There's no irony there in labelling all Australians casual racists at all. Absolutely right, though.
Only the ones on the Footy Show. I'm joking, of course. Speaking of which, in a kind of segue, and we'll talk about the players not behaving properly in a moment. Great on the coverage of the Challenge Cup at the weekend, the bit on Clive Sullivan at half-time, who is obviously a giant of our sport. And they came back and spoke about diversity and stuff. And I say again, as I did on Twitter at half-time in the game, it's all right saying we're going to do this and we're going to do that and we're going to do the other. But when the authorities know, and everyone in the sport knows, there are players and ex-players on social media posting thinly veiled racism and nothing seems to be done about it. You can have as many campaigns as you want. It's the same with everything, but you're not doing anything. You've got to actually do something. You've got to be seen to do something. Otherwise, it is just another, here's Black Lives Matter is the cause of the day, and when something else happens, we'll move on to that. Nothing happens. I don't know. The players know.
I agree, Richard.
Everyone knows.
I don't know what you can add to that. It's spot on.
Everyone knows a person at a club who has posted racist stuff in the past and was done for it, and he's still involved in the game. Or I think one of those things where, if you've done it in the past, well, that's the past now. It's like Ben Barber is banned, and anyone who did the same as Ben Barber is not banned because they did it before Ben Barber, so it's all right. I don't know.
There's a cost to a campaign like this, which for clubs could well be the banning of spectators who are season ticket holders.
Mm.
Now, that's the next step for me. That if you're serious about doing this, you're serious about it meaning something to the sport and you taking a stand, then one of the things you've got to be seen to be doing is saying there's the line that nobody is crossing, and if they do, that's the consequence of it. And the consequence for me would be your membership of whatever club you support is immediately revoked. But whether the clubs will want to do that, perhaps they should have decided beforehand.
What I don't understand is with a very recent case, which everyone picked up on Twitter, a couple of weeks ago, 3 weeks ago, nothing's happened. Nothing seems to have happened. Why isn't it being brought before whatever disciplinary panel looks into these things and either make a decision, either say, yes, that's racist, or yes, that goes against our discrimination policy, or no, it doesn't. And we can all move on. It just needs to drag on and on and on. Mm. It's like last year at the Challenge Cup semi-finals at Bolton. There were those allegations of racism against certain fans, a minority of fans. Nothing's ever been mentioned about that again.
Yeah, to the point where you almost think it's at least semi-deliberate to just make you forget about it, rather than to act on it quickly. I wonder what needs to happen with this particular instance that you're talking about, Richard. How many weeks ago was it now? Why has it not been sorted? It's pretty clear, wasn't it?
You can't come out on national TV and talk about it, and then there's a case, and the wider public at large have no idea, do they? Because they don't follow the minutiae of Rugby League Twitter, so they don't know what's going on. But we know what's going on. I don't know.
There's clearly an issue in the sport that we need to address. And that is that having played the card for a very long time that we're open and inclusive and more diverse than most, and it's hard to argue with that. Our history would say that we can point to some significant landmarks that show we were ahead of the game. We are still not up to date with this. It's gone on for too long. We've all heard things at grounds. We've all seen people not get ejected for issues that the sport cares deeply about. We've heard the Tannoy announcement that may as well not be put out now. It's derided that much and certainly not acted upon. So as a sport, how are we going to take this forward? Stop dwelling in the past where we've done some things okay. And if we really genuinely mean what we say, then how are we going to back that up?
Clive Sullivan was the 70s. Ellery Hanley was 1994. It's now 2020. They are all ancient history. What are we doing today? But there you go. That's that bit for the people who don't like the politics section of the program.
It's taking a dark turn after the pizza.
Oh no!
Can we get back to that sort of stuff?
It's taking an even worse turn looking at your mug. I don't mean your face. I mean your mug.
Oh, thank you very much. Good to clarify that for people who haven't got the video.
What does the tree represent?
Wigan Athletic.
What does the tree represent?
It's the Wigan tree. Don't ask me any more than that.
The Wigan tree. Doesn't it have
Wigan tree? I think, yeah. I don't want to get the story wrong on such an esteemed.
Truth always wills out on this program for sure.
Hang on, I've got the computer. I'm going to Google Wigan tree. I'm not having this.
It's a tree and crown.
I thought they would have had what's his name's leg on it.
Is that the name of a pub by any chance?
I imagine.
Like the Rose and Crown. Is it the Tree and Crown?
Probably be a few of those. I would have thought.
I
don't actually know of one though. To be fair,
story breaking this evening that Wigan Warriors are going to buy the DW Stadium, and that the investor who apparently is coming in to help the finances of the club. This is all part of the deal that there's a potential asset there. So that might be interesting to see the balance tipped a little in favour of the rugby league team rather than the football team.
Well, interesting is the word that you used. Yeah, unfortunate. If you're Wigan Athletic supporter, you kind of hope that the stadium isn't the only asset they're interested in from Wigan, from the Latics that is, and that hopefully that sporting partnership can be made a reality. I don't know if that's really going to happen. I believe there's a press conference from Wigan Athletic administrators on Thursday to sort of shed some more light on how things are going. So there's been some pretty troubling rumours on social media lately about what might happen to the Latics. So I guess we're just wait and see really for now. But yeah, for the stadium point of view, I mean that was obviously always a weakness for Wigan Warriors from a business point of view, wasn't it? So if they own their own ground, gives them all the possibilities that come with that corporately.
And if the football club survived on the back of it, but perhaps the roles were reversed and they became the tenants, everybody could benefit out of that.
Yeah, absolutely, because there's no guarantee right now that the football club will survive. You only have to look at Bury to what happened there. All right, slightly better condition, you would say. Certainly, in the words of the administrators, that the business was pretty decent actually at Wigan. So yeah, if it ends up with Latics being secured and Wigan Warriors being the major owners of the DW, then I'm happy. I'd take that. Yeah, I don't really mind. It's fine by me. There's probably a few Latics fans that be a bit uncomfortable with that, but there are bigger things, aren't there? Existing for one.
Yeah, pizza, according to Twitter, because we just had a tweet about deep fried pizza, which is apparently a thing in the northeast. I don't know if that's going to get Newcastle fast tracked in to Super League or not. So that's the exciting news from Paul. Thanks for that. The other thing everyone's not happy about today, and you've mentioned Wigan there, Paul, so let's talk about Wigan, because yet again, as we know, Wigan, whether it's the salary cap or breaking the COVID rules, they get away with murder in Pie Town. And Jackson Hastings has been banned, but he served his ban while playing rugby league matches because, as I understand it, they didn't have... Now, bear in mind, lockdown was March, and we're now on the verge of September, and we started playing 3 weeks ago, so training 4 or 5 or whatever they're going to tell the taxman. And it's taken until seemingly this afternoon to come up with the rules for what we do if players happen to break the compliance of this, that and the other. So Jackson Hastings apparently has broken it, but because it's backdated to when he happened, which was before he played 2 games, his 14 days has been and gone, and they may as well not have bothered.
Well, what is intriguing is the use of that word ban, isn't it? And that is used in the press release. Now, if it's just you break protocol, therefore you have to be in isolation for 14 days, you're not allowed to play for 14 days. If you say that, oh, actually, it's come to light, he's broken the protocols, but those 14 days have passed, you could maybe move forward. But when you start using the word ban, as in it's a punishment for doing something against the rules, then how can you have served it by playing? I don't understand that. So yeah, it's a strange one. If they're gonna ban players as an example, then what example has this set?
But also the other thing they haven't said in the press release is what the players have actually done to break the protocol. So, if it's Wayne Bennett and he's had lunch in a restaurant and had a lasagna and he should have had a ravioli, at least we know what it is he's done and why he got his $20,000 fine. We have only been told that they have breached a protocol. But if you're another player, you would want to know, and maybe the players do know, and they just decided not to put it in the press release, what they've done. It sets a marker down. I think the other thing as well is we talked from the pizza point of view that it might not be exactly what it seems, but it turns out the way it does because the communication isn't strong enough to give the message that you want it to give. This is sort of another case. However this story broke, it was clearly in League Express, which meant it was online about 8:30 last night with what was going to be in the paper. It's almost as if the outbreak of indignation on social media forced a press release to come out this morning. Again, it would have been better in the knowledge that something had come out, even if you weren't aware of it, to make that statement a little bit quicker, to clarify the situation. Clearly, there were no names last night. There were names this morning, and I think that the naming and shaming, which was absolutely right, if they'd broken protocol, you think about what the players are being asked to do at the moment, and to find even the smallest percentage of them not doing whatever it is. And again, we don't know what they've done, so I don't know how serious it is. And I think you should know what they've done. The least everybody who is doing the right thing deserves is for those who aren't to be brought to the public attention. So again, I just think the message has got muddled. We haven't fully got it out there. The ban situation is a complete joke, that he's prevented from playing by something that he's done, but played and can play again this weekend. So again, all the focus on the weekend's games the cameras will be on Jackson Hastings. So we've shot ourselves in the foot again, that instead of talking about the things that we should be talking about, it's all the ancillary stuff behind it that we're discussing and will be termed negative for.
I mean, I know we talk about players when they're sin-binned rather than sent off or put on report. It doesn't penalise the team at the time. We're going to have played 2 games with a player who shouldn't have been playing, going by these rules. I mean, how can this situation happen, regardless of whether the rules are in place or not? Surely, if it is a ban, as has been written, rather than being forced to self-isolate, which obviously he's not done because he's played rugby league games. And again, we're not picking on Jackson Hastings, we're picking on the situation before his mum tweets in. So his mum has become the new Liam Watson's dad, but just on Twitter rather than the League Express letters page. And regardless of what he's done, regardless of whether he's done it for noble reasons, they're told what to do and what not to do. And if you do what you're not supposed to do, it's like this is black and white, isn't it? There's no shades of grey in this. You either do what you're told or you don't, because of the situation where, as we keep saying on this programme, the future of the sport potentially is on the line here.
Well, clearly the protocols aren't strong enough here, because we've been in a situation where it's discovered that he has broken the protocol and he's still gone on and played. And in worse circumstances, that could have been disastrous for us, couldn't it? We've seen what happened with Hull FC recently. We could have had another one of those on our hands. So, I don't want to judge Jackson Hastings at all, because you can have these momentary lapses where you just forget almost. You're in the middle of a global pandemic. I went to the shop the other day carrying my mask in my hand because I put it on as I'm going in the shop. And then I'm in the shop for like a minute and thinking, hang on, I've not got it on it. And so I put it on like a minute in. So, and you just forget sometimes. You do. But if you're protecting the sport, you've got to be rigid on these things, haven't you? You know?
The thing about the disciplinary as well, you mentioned the committee, and we've spoken before about whether the ban fits the crime or whatever. But the fact is, you know what the incident is. In this case, we're all making judgments without knowing what he's done. Has he come into potential contact with the COVID virus? In which case, he should have been forced to self-isolate. I think, again, we've left a huge loophole in the laws that we're trying to draw up. And because of the seriousness of this, what if he had tested positive and it came out that he breached the protocols? Yeah, I think the players in particular and the public that have supported clubs by not asking for season ticket money back or whatever it might be, buying a cardboard cutout of themselves, just deserve to know what the players concerned, and it's not just Jackson Hastings. It just seems ridiculous because clearly the punishment will not fit the crime in his case. We don't know what they've done. We don't know how serious it is. But if you breached a coronavirus protocol, there has to be an element of risk there. Because the sensitive players all tested negative but stood down for 2 weeks.
There were stories about a player from another club who was celebrating at Anfield when Liverpool won the Premier League. Now, whether that was true or not, the stories were out there, and there have been pictures of players on social media involved in social activities with people who are not in the Rugby League bubble or whatever. So what's going on? What are they allowed to do? Now, I can understand the players being confused. And Sam Tompkins was right last week when he came out and said, they need to be said in black and white, don't go to pubs, don't go to nightclubs, because some of them don't have the common sense not to go to pubs and not go to nightclubs in this situation, as we've seen with the Aberdeen footballers. At least Boris Johnson's not come out and had a go at Jackson Hastings yet. So
he's still on holiday probably, isn't he? I imagine.
That's true. He'll be back soon. Maybe he'll be back to see Jackson on Saturday.
Maybe Jackson went for an eye test.
Went to Barnard Castle. It's the curse of the Man of Steel award, of course, because he won it last year. Ben Barber won it the year before. Now he's allegedly signing for a team that doesn't really exist. That'll get me in trouble. Luke Gale won it and did his leg. Zach Hardacre, we know what happened to him. Rangi Chase, he won it, and now he's the course celeb in League One. Oh, look at him! He did this thing once against Castro. He did that thing with the ball behind his back, and I'm going to show you it all the time. When people were talking last week about the clip of John Bateman that Fox put out in Australia, and they said, "Oh, why don't we do this over here?" Because we keep promoting the same players time and time again, just because they did something bad in the past and now they're doing something good or not doing something good. We don't promote the right players. We're never going to change that. I get on the same hobby horses. I would love to tell a story about a player or an ex-player now who was, I think you were there, Paul. A member of the Rugby League media said in a meeting, we should make our next person to redeem. And I'm not going to name them on the programme, but it was just the most ridiculous thing to do. We want to make stars of people who are actually good at the sport and have a, as far as we know, clean lifestyle. Make them into stars, get them on Question of Sport, not...
I thought you were going to say Question Time then.
Well, I get on Question Time as well, like, what's his name? Joey Barton, another great Rugby League personality of the past.
Oh, so I think there's probably a few Rugby League players who will be at home on Question Time, whether on the panel or potentially in the audience.
Oh, anyway,
I won't say anymore.
This is where we need more games, because otherwise you just get caught up in things that have annoyed me. But it was a good video, and Bradford is,
You're just trying to avoid talking about Wakefield for as long as possible, aren't you?
No, we played all right this week. Better than last week.
Comparatively, yeah.
It was right. It was raining, though. Let's be fair.
Yeah. It was raining, which is good. I'm trying to think of anything else that happened in the last week.
How about the big news from today? Not the pizza. What about Neil Hudgell?
Oh yes. Let's talk about that before we talk about Tommy Makinson. He's leaving Hull Kingston Rovers at the end of the season, leaving them in a financially good position, which is important. It seems in the last few years when people have left clubs not quite in the same position as Neil Hudgell, they've been held up as some kind of great people. But it seems in this case, Neil Hudgell and what he's done at Hull KR, having got them promoted and having been relegated and stuck by them and kept the club on a financial even keel, he's the kind of person we should be celebrating and saying, bloody hell, what have we done to push him out of the sport?
I think the statement he gave said at the end of it, he hopes that he's leaving the club in a better state than when he arrived, and clearly he is. To write off all his debts, to leave them in the Super League, to leave them in a stadium that has come on leaps and bounds in the time that he's been in charge, and the possibility of becoming financially self-sufficient just by buying the land around it as well. There's still this debate about how sustainable they are as a Super League force. But clearly he stuck by them through the hardest times when they got relegated. He's done a fantastic job. He's always stood up for their cause. I think even when you look at the whole debate about Toronto, where he was railing against we're in the arms of a single investor, and he was pretty much the same thing for Hull KR. I don't think you can question his loyalty to the club, his desire for the club to do well, the personal money that he and his family have put into it. He's tried to buy the best players that were available to him. You can nitpick over the period and say not enough young kids have come through, but is that an issue more for the city of Hull than it is Hull Kingston Rovers? I think if they don't name a trophy or build a statue to him or name a stand after him, then they're not doing him his contribution justice.
Yeah, I mean, first of all, I hope we haven't pushed him away, as you suggested there, Richard, although we've probably turned a few people off. I don't know whether that extends to Neil. I just, you get the sense from the press release, somebody pretty much said it, didn't he, that he's sort of had enough, really, and it's getting a bit stressful. And you do obviously worry that it's going to be increasingly so in the current situation. It's easy to think that we sort of survived coronavirus by getting back on the field, and after the 5 months away to be back, feels like we've sort of slightly overcome it. But if it does kill us or set us back, it's going to be a slow and painful one. I think the effects are going to be long lasting and over a long period of time. You do worry that Neil Hudgell's sort of seen it coming and wondering, have I got the energy for this? Have I got the money for this? Crucially, how many more times can I dig my hand into my pocket and bail this club out when it seems clear to everyone that the financial status of the game is only going one way right now, unless we can get ourselves a fantastic TV deal next time,
Or Papa John's pay up.
Yeah.
Where's BT when you need them? Oh no, they're not interested. The problem is, Phil, isn't it, is that there aren't enough people who like Rugby League who are extremely rich, and we have too many people involved who pretend to be rich and are shown quickly that they're not. And to lose someone like Neil at a club like Hull KR, I mean, Steve has asked on Twitter earlier, will they find another benefactor willing to plough the amount of money needed into the club? And that's got to be the question that a lot of Hull KR fans are asking themselves tonight. I've seen one name mentioned on Twitter, which is the obvious one I'm not going to name. If he had money, he's had plenty of chances to set up all his millions of clubs, and he hasn't. So
it's not Richard Branson, though.
What was he doing on that RFL video, by the way?
Waving to the crowd at Wembley when he led his team out in jeans and then got the letter from Richard Lewis and walked away.
World record point scorer not on there.
Richard Branson.
Bailout Branson's on there.
I mean, whoever does buy Hull KR, he could not have left it in a better position. You know, he's not asking for any return on his investment, so they're effectively debt free. They get a year's worth of Sky money at its current rate coming in 2021, minus the 300,000 that we already know every club is going to be paying back for matches shown. So effectively, that is your salary cap. My worry is the worry for the game as a whole. I think that Paul's already sort of more than alluded to. Is they're very different animals, but Toronto and Hull KR have existed on the generosity of benefactors who are dealing in completely different markets and have handled their clubs in completely different ways. But we're losing both of them. And the worry for me, if I was interested in buying into any club at the moment, would be what does the picture look like in 2022? Because if we do assume that the television deal may well be less, and the likelihood is that it won't be much of a negotiation if there is only one party involved. So let's be realistic about it and say that the very best we could hope for would be the same, not more. And the same as you know, for some clubs has proved to be not quite enough, then that would be the concern. I think that, again, not every issue we've ever spoken about, what do we want Super League to look like? Where's the next generation of talent coming through? You know, all of that is highlighted by when somebody like Neil Hudgell says, I can't take this any further. Because if he can't, you worry how many other owners might say the same thing. And yes, of course it's a concern, but it all revolves around money, and we don't generate enough.
My friend Dave is a Fev fan. He's always trolling me on social media about the status of my team stadium. And he has asked, will the game be alive in 2021?
Wow.
Well, it will be in some,
yeah.
in some sense.
2022, not so sure. 2021, you'd hope so. We've got a World Cup to put on.
So the big birthday party this week. Next year we'll have the World Cup, and then the World Cup is the end of Rugby League party. Is that what we're doing?
Birthday party followed by the funeral. Yeah.
If I may quote Professor Tony Collins, whose new book comes out this week to celebrate the 125th anniversary of the sport, available from all good bookshops.
And yours, Phil.
Well, yes. I couldn't possibly comment about who's published it because that clearly would be product placement. But as he said in one of his many podcasts he's doing this week, you know, the very week that the sport was formed in 1895, it was told it was going to die. And here we are celebrating its 125th birthday, and there may be some speed bumps clearly looming along the way, but it won't die. My concern, and the concern I think of this programme, has been that if it reverts to being predominantly a part-time sport, not only will all the best players be picked off either by Rugby Union or the NRL, not only may some of the bigger clubs wonder what their future is.
Oh, he's gone in full flow.
You'll be complaining about a lack of coverage. There won't be any coverage.
There's always free sport, Phil. There's always free sport. Yeah, we had the top 15 programmes on Sky Sports Arena, whatever it was the other week, because I looked on the figures. And granted, half of those were repeats of highlights and stuff, and people would have just sat there all day and watched it. But that's not bad. That's something to celebrate, even if the stats are, you know, kind of iffy. You know, it's something to celebrate.
Is it grand final gold again?
Probably. It's always Leeds winning, I've noticed. Every single time.
If I see Ben Flower hit Lance Ohio in the face one more time.
Josh Walters is the hero.
Yeah, Guildford's finest. Did Ben never got a big redemption comeback, did he? Because he did his thing on the field rather than off it, so it was all right. I don't know. So good luck, Hull Kingston Rovers. And good luck, Neil Hudgell. Enjoy your time, enjoying rugby league without having to worry about paying for it.
Yeah, I just hope this isn't the Dave Whelan departure moment, and wherever the investment's coming from, make sure it's not Hong Kong, just in case. That's my experience.
And if you have broken your leg, Neil's the man to speak to, of course. Doc Wigan the point, says Neil. It's like I'm reading these tweets as if we're live, but we're not. Yeah, let's have the points back. We'll have the points. We'll take the points.
You need all the points you can get, don't you, Rich?
What? Ban them all. Before we get on to the actual match of the week, other things. Is that really Sean Wayne on Twitter? Has he really got a Twitter? Is that really him?
He hasn't said anything controversial yet, so it could be.
No.
Mind you, it's all spelt correctly, so maybe it isn't.
Do you reckon it's something that the RFL doing it for him? Is that what you're saying? You'll be getting a call in the morning, Phil. We know they listen.
If he needs a PA, I mean, get in touch.
That's what Scully's old muck and Maskey's there for, isn't it? Maybe he's doing the tweets.
I see our friend Mr. Davidson was reporting on, was it Triple M, saying that Sean's on the shortlist of the North Queensland Cowboys job?
Is he?
Mm. Yeah. Did he say that he'd interviewed for it and sort of impressed? Maybe I've made that up. The last bit. I'd seen Davidson tweet about it, and that was about it.
Really. We glanced over as we always do.
Yeah. Well, I'm legally not allowed to do any work, so that's my excuse.
Most of his squad's down there anyway, so can go see Wayne. Have a look on you.
Yeah, be quite a challenge for him, I guess. Cowboys not having the greatest of seasons, but
must be holding out for the Brisbane job now.
I'd love to see him have a go down there. Seriously, see what sort of impact he could have in the NRL. I'd be interested to see it. Yeah,
but it's not as if an England coach couldn't coach an NRL side at the same time.
Exactly.
And he's calling for the return of the Exiles, which will sell a couple of shirts. Do we want to see the Exiles back, or Wales,
Don't you think that's sad though? That the only option we can come up with in the short term before a World Cup to get the level of intensity we need is a made-up side that caps aren't awarded for. I mean, it just again shows us the paucity of our international game at the moment. That at the same time as we want to bring the Exiles back, Wales' best player is playing for England, which he's absolutely entitled to do because he's born in Barrow and is very proud of the fact that he's now been selected for England. But we clearly don't have a policy for international development. We don't have a policy for what Great Britain means. We should be looking to bring a Pacific Island nation over here midway through next year, if at all possible. And I'm sure that there will be at least one who isn't playing in the Oceania Cup, whatever that might look like next year. I think by the same token, rather than an Exiles team, what is wrong with a combined Celtic team to start giving a leg up to Scotland, Ireland and Wales to make them credible for the World Cup? And as for France, that's a debate we've had a million times about what can we seriously do to make them a reliable Northern Hemisphere opponent, on the basis of the fact that if you keep picking the majority of their side from one club, that actually isn't going to help them.
Here's the kit they could wear, the combined Celtic team. It's green, it's red, and it's blue.
Oh wow, very nice. I think the Exiles for next year as a short-term solution before the World Cup is kind of fine and probably realistic as well. It's nice what Phil's saying about getting a Southern Hemisphere nation over, and I think that will be ideal. But I guess we don't know what the world's going to be like at that point.
No.
Travel restrictions might be in place again. It's probably more sensible actually to just work with the players that we've got. Your Celtic idea is not a bad one. The Exiles, I would take that. France just aren't good enough, are they, to give us the test that we want? So I'm in favour of it. Only though if we do the good and proper rugby league thing and then scrap it 2 years later.
Yeah,
and then I'll call for it to come back.
And then have a debate about whether cap should be awarded 15 years later when somebody's one short of their 50th.
This is the RFL 120th anniversary jersey, this one.
Oh, is that what that is?
I don't know if they're bringing out a new one for the 125th anniversary.
I thought we were getting cake, but clearly not.
No, Ralph's cake. He looked smart on the telly on Saturday, not wearing tweed as we often see him in. He looked quite okay. Although no tie, unbuttoned, positive about the future of the sport and everything. We're getting closer to talking about that game. Don't worry. I know
we're not worried. I think it's you.
I don't want to win the Challenge Cup if there's going to be no fans there. What's the point? We'll save it for next year.
But at least it won't be Catalans' fault this time. I'm sure they'll try and blame them again.
No fans, can't they? There'll be people at the RFL rubbing their hands together saying, what a great year for Catalan to get to the final.
Allez. One thing that annoys me among everything else in the world, and this goes on to the game in a minute, the social media response to the Tommy Makinson ban. Now I noticed, by the way, as an offshoot of last week's programme in which one of our guests, and it wasn't me and it wasn't Phil, said he's an idiot. And Tommy Makinson started following that person on Twitter afterwards. I don't know if there was any more came of that, but that was amusing. But he was charged with a grade F, but he went to the disciplinary panel and they downgraded it to an E. And instead of getting 8 games as we all thought he was, he got 6, but it was reduced to 5 because he's got good behaviour. And in fairness to Tommy Makinson, he has got a good record. People getting upset about it because other players have done similar in the past and got bigger bans, but they've also been very naughty boys as well in the past. Should he have got the 8 games, or were the panel right to downgrade him to an E? It's an impossible question to answer because we don't know all the evidence, of course.
I thought 8 games was fair, sounded fair to me. So yeah, I was surprised to see it downgraded. I wonder if any of the people on the panel who had that offence downgraded would volunteer to have that done to them. I don't know. But yeah, it looked a grade F to me. I would have thought, yeah. Then again, I'm quite draconian. I'll be banning people left, right, and centre. To be honest, for a long time, there'd be hardly anyone left if I was in charge of the disciplinary. To be fair,
you see empty stands now. That's if I won the Euro Millions and bought my club. That's what the stands would be like all the time. Because I'd have banned everyone who said against me.
That would be very much fitting with the Pyongyang Pylons brand, though, wouldn't it? I guess if you.
Yes. I need to talk to him about making some shirts as well.
Then they become unfans.
I'll ask you about a disciplinary issue in a second, but I think on 2 counts. First, I'm disappointed that nobody else called it Ghouliegate, because I think that it was tailor-made for that. The other thing is, the only thing I would have given him the lower end of the grade F scale. So 6 to me, particularly in a truncated season, would have seemed appropriate. But what I don't understand is why it was downgraded from an F to an E. Because clearly, if you can be bothered to read the demarcation lines for the severity of each grading, it's not an E offence. It's quite clearly laid out in the statutes as an F offence. So I'm not sure that again the message is anything other than a little bit mixed. If they'd have said grade F is 6 to 8 and they gave him 6, could have gone with that. If they've said it's been downgraded from F to E, on what grounds? Twisting is twisting, no matter how you grade it. The other thing is, I thought one of the other rules that had been brought in for this season was no third man in the tackle when a man was standing. Have either of you seen that being enforced? Because I'm sure there were at least 2 occasions in the game on Saturday that we're not talking about yet, early on, where that happened.
I've definitely seen it happen. Yeah. Is that the rule again? Who knows anymore? Who knows? He probably downgraded the rules now. You can probably have 5 men now, as long as you bring a free pizza at the end.
Are we up in the subs apparently from 8 to 10 or something? That's coming in this week or next week or something?
Yeah, that's going to come into force at around 2:35 p.m. on Sunday.
It's going to come, halfway through.
We're going to go back and replay all the games with more subs because it may have altered the outcome.
That sounds fair, doesn't it? I think that sounds fair. No one's got a clue. We are making it up as we go along. I guess we have to make it up as we go along in these as they say, strange times. So the big talking point, of course, on Saturday was the fact that because the people on the telly didn't realise that the 2 touch judges and the referee gave a conversion, everyone goes on social media to talk about a conspiracy that Catalans were almost robbed by a conversion which the 2 touch judges and the referee gave, but no one on the TV noticed. Why do people on social media, especially so-called journalists, as I was called the other day, which I've changed my bio now on Twitter, it says not a journalist. Why do they continue to question match officials making decisions when a game's on, when they have a split second to make a decision, in a decision which all 3 of them agreed with? What's the point of going on social media? And seemingly, I say one thing, get criticised and get hauled up by people, and nothing happens. I'm the victim complex here.
I'm going to allow them to have a debate about. Sorry, I'll allow them to make a fuss about that one. To be fair, it missed, didn't it?
That's well in.
It's an optical illusion. If you watch it again,
honestly, my sanity. I'm questioning my sanity completely. I've watched that many times. I thought that went in.
Ian Smith said it was over. He's a referee.
Watch it again and watch it with the ball going over the post rather than the side of the post, and it looks then as though it's a bona fide kick, but actually it doesn't matter because it didn't influence the outcome in any way whatsoever.
It doesn't matter, but I'm defending the fans on Twitter there because
watch it again.
You've got that footage. It's like what am I seeing there? So it went over, did it?
Yeah.
Are you sure?
Yeah, 100%. I wasn't even watching that carefully. I've just got an agenda. As it is, the Catalans are through to the whatever stage of the cup it is now, where they'll play Salford in I don't know whenever it is. Hopefully they'll be playing in the south of France, say Steve McNamara, because Bernard Gouache doesn't want to send him over in a plane again, which is fair enough. So that'll give everyone a headache at Salford. Maybe they can ask their fans for crowdfunding to send them over.
That's an interesting story at the moment. He said just moving to go and plug in. I
like this tour of the house. This is a new segment of the show.
It's only one. Yes, who lives here? The story coming out of the south of France over the weekend was that teams still may not be allowed to travel there.
Oh, yes.
And that even though they could have up to 8,000 people watching them, there hadn't yet been a secure bubble agreed for getting teams over there in the same way that there has for getting Catalan over here. And again, as stories come out tonight, the prefecture of the region has said he wants teams to come, but there is still a doubt that the health department in France have not yet given the go-ahead.
All these foreign things. Cause us headaches.
These foreigners again. Yeah.
The foreigners, yeah. It's a good job that Toulouse have given up and also haven't started yet. I say given up as in the championship's not going and they're not going to be in the Ralph Rimmer Cup, so I don't know what happens there. What to wait for you to get back in or the Salford get a bye now if Catalans aren't allowed. Oh, I've got no idea what's going on. There's no wonder the rules aren't in place, is it? Because no one's got a clue what's going to happen next.
Here's another question for the two of you, because clearly you are far more au fait with this kind of thing than I am. The rearranged game of Holland Castleford, is that now going to mean that Super League games that should have been played that weekend are delayed and it becomes even more of an issue later in the season, fitting two more fixtures in, or are those two cup teams going to be forced to play 2 or 3 games in as many days, in which case, whatever the reason for Hull testing positive, should Castleford be penalised?
Well, as we said last week, no, they shouldn't. And if we still stand by the line that it's no one at Hull's fault that they tested positive, it's just an unfortunate fact of we have to finish this season by a certain point. that they should have forfeited that game. But there's no rules in place for us to do that. And we can't retrospectively throw them out like Jackson Hastings. Well, what we'll do is we'll bring in a rule after saying they should have been thrown out after they've beaten Castleford. And then we can get into that mess as well.
I'm looking at the fixture list. Just on that point, Hull and Castleford are both down to play on the Thursday of that week.
Yeah, so we're going to make them play Thursday and Saturday now.
I would read that we are. Yeah, I would have thought so.
Wow.
I think in these circumstances you kind of have to, don't you? And you say, well, you're going to have to play kids at some point, aren't you?
I mean, I'm concerned that on the 7th of September, apparently, Catalans and Leeds are playing twice at 6 o'clock Central European time and 7:15 Central European time. So those games will overlap, which is very concerning. Are they going to send the women out there? And I don't know. One
of those games is played with 8 interchanges and one with 10 interchanges.
Yes, that's the one from early in the season where the Leeds didn't go because they might get stuck there forever. Yeah.
Here's another thing, though. If teams are flying in and out on the day, what happens if there is a delay at an airport or weather precludes them getting there at the appointed time? Maybe they've built in that extra hour in case Leeds' flight's delayed.
Possibly. While we're talking about kickoff times and stuff, are we concerned about this 2:30 kickoff on a Thursday afternoon that everyone's got upset about?
I'm not, because I'm not doing anything at 2:30 on a Thursday afternoon.
I'm with you in that one, club. Oh, yeah.
So I'm absolutely fine. Most of the fans are probably working from home, aren't they? I imagine. Yeah. It's not ideal if you're at work, I guess. But,
It's the choice between it being on TV and not being on TV. I think people forget that you don't just turn up with a video camera and, stick a wire into a plug and it goes onto Sky somehow.
Mm.
No, I think that's the thing. You can't have it both ways. You can't say we think our major broadcaster should show all our games, and when they say this is your time slot, you say, well, we want you to show all our games, but we'd like you to show ours at prime time when I'm sitting down and having my tea. So unfortunately, that is the nature of the beast, and better perhaps to fulfil your contract and give Papa John's the exposure that they desire to. I'm not having it on the telly and having to pay back another game, maybe.
Finish 4:30 in the afternoon. Some people think, oh, pizza. Oh.
They've got more free advertising out. If they're not sending stuff round for us next week, then something's wrong.
Free pizzas, that's what we're on. Have we covered all the news? Is that all the news now? So we nearly done now without.
You tell me. I've not been working. I don't know. I've been at home.
I mean, basically, I just wait for people to cut and paste bits of the League Express onto Twitter on a Sunday night, because I don't have to pay me £1.50 then. So that's all.
£80. £1.80.
Yeah, £1.80 now. Yeah.
Bloody hell! I better change my tax returns for next year. That
means you're not reading Scully's column.
Well, again, they post it online a couple of days later, so I don't need to. What's he talked about this week?
Hang on.
Don't forget you can buy the new Forty20 magazine, which is out now.
Has anybody read Scully's column?
I'm not saying I haven't read it. But,
I mainly read my own to see which of my hilarious jokes have been cut out and which ones have been put in by people. But
put in? Surely not.
Good to see my mention of Strip Master Brain on live TV was kept in. So I was very happy about that.
Got to keep that. What's his name again?
I thought my line about Bungle was quite good, but that's been cut out. That's disappointing, but there you go.
Oh, sure, Bungle was in there.
Yeah, but not line about him being a liability.
No, I'm sure his column must be in here. It's going to be an anticlimax when I tell you what he's written about, isn't it?
It is the worst Leeds team ever. Number 1, John Gallagher.
This is a gripping segment, guys.
The World Cup on coronavirus. It's hard not to be impressed by John Dutton, but put the World Cup on in 2022.
The world's leading expert on coronavirus.
Herbie's progress, surprising loan in his senior to Wakefield, and Regan's stock is rising. There you go.
We've got no wingers.
Save me £1.80, thank you.
I hope Martin Sandler's not watching. The World Cup. The tickets are out. I forgot about that because I was even at the press briefing last week. I even asked a question just to make sure I was there for legitimate reasons. But the tickets are out. I saw people moaning the night before, I won't pay more than 20 quid to go to a game. these people are never going to pay to go to anything for a start. But the tickets, they're mostly affordable. We've got some big games in big cities. I'm already thinking England versus Greece is a game which everyone knows the result, but it's in Sheffield. Bramall Lane's a nice stadium. 15 quid the cheapest ticket to watch the England national team in a World Cup. That's good. We're selling things to new audiences, or trying to, and the ticket price is certainly going to help that. You would imagine so, anyway.
Yeah, absolutely. It'd be a great day out. You get a free lamb kebab at the end. Yeah, it's
on a pizza.
They seem to be priced pretty competitively. I think that's good. I've seen a few people moaning about 20% of the tickets being 50 quid or above or whatever, but it's a World Cup.
Some people want something for nothing, don't they? No, that's the problem.
Yeah. Well, no, that's just Papa John's.
Oh yeah.
I think that those 20% of tickets that are above 50 quid is exactly right. We haven't devalued the World Cup. I think corporate is relatively expensive, which is what it should be. I mean, it's actually relatively cheap compared to every world tournament, but comparatively speaking, if you want a really top-notch day out in entertaining your clients, you're going to have to pay for it. Good. It's a World Cup. I think you should be able to buy £50 seats, because this could be a once-in-a-lifetime experience. And we are going to stadiums like Anfield and the Emirates, and you should be paying top dollar for that. You can't have it both ways. We want the sport to be seen as something valued, so you can't give away the tickets for it. And I understand it must be another hell of a job for the organisers, that they've set themselves this target of 750,000 ticket sales at a time when a lot of the people who would be going to rugby league games are worrying about the security of their own employment. So they've managed to cover women's and wheelchair. They're offering significantly reduced prices in an effort, let's be honest, to get kids there, which is exactly what you want. And for the top games involving the major nations, you pay a premium, exactly as you should. I think they've got it up, bang on, spot on. Well done.
And you can pay in instalments. That's another good thing at this time of financial crisis. And if it doesn't go ahead, if the crowds have to be reduced, it's all guaranteed. You get your money back. So people will find things to moan about. I know it's a completely different thing running a major sports event rather than a major sport, but it is nice that there is something positive in our sport that's going on at the moment that we're all looking forward to. I'm really looking forward to the World Cup. It's going to be a great tournament, hopefully. People who get upset about teams losing by 100 points or whatever have never seen any World Cups in any other sport. It happens in cricket.
Of course, it happens in the Rugby League World Cup, doesn't it? Big scores all the time, and no one seems to care.
I bet you put your poster on the wall already, haven't you?
Oh, yeah.
Plotted the course of every nation.
Well, I'm moving, so I've not done it yet, but I will do. Well,
in the middle of the new 4020 magazine, your full colour poster.
Not. This is the official one. This is not like Alan Partridge, where he had to make up his own guide to the World Cup.
That was sensational.
Which is the greatest sketch of all time. This is the official. It's got the logos on and everything. Look.
All of the Partridge sports stuff. Yes, it's fantastic. The horse racing, I think, clinches it for me.
I mean, there is the clip of he does the Rugby League. It's one of the DVD extras of 85 final.
He's got the ball. You can't catch me. Yeah, Brett Kenny, wasn't it? It's brilliant. If you've not seen it, you can get it on YouTube. It's fantastic.
It's been illegally put on YouTube, like everything else. Speaking of Ray French, he's not on the BBC anymore, but they are the official rights holders for the Challenge Cup. I do like the theory that everyone on the BBC is great and everyone on Sky is rubbish, which some people seem to espouse every week when the BBC are on, which they forget that there are parts of both which are good and parts of both which are bad.
Yeah.
It's also amusing that people seem to have discovered John Wilkin 2 weeks ago when he was on Sky, when he's been on the BBC for years. I've seen those annoying blokes who goes on the pitch before a match.
And I suspect if we were on BBC most weeks and on Sky for a change, the opinions might be a little bit reversed as well. You know, familiarity, it can breed contempt, can't it? Sometimes. So yeah,
I do think Mark Chapman is an asset for the sport, and the half hour in the build up to the game was really good. When you think that is on a mainstream audience who probably don't have the context, I thought the way they did that, and the fact that he was fronting it, and he has this ability, a bit like Claire Balding when she was presenting Rugby League, to almost make it easier for his guests, because he's eliciting things from he's the person in the studio that isn't au fait with everything that goes on in Rugby League, but he clearly likes the sport. So John Wilkin, JJB, Brian Noble, let's have a bit of a laugh, but you tell me something. I think that is a really endearing way of selling the sport.
I think from my perspective, sometimes they have too much of a laugh, but nothing that's, to the detriment of the product or anything. Chapman's the best in the business, and I think I've written this in Forty20 before. The fact that Lineker gets paid as much as he does to do what he does, and Chapman can do anything. When Lineker did the golf one was terrible, but Chapman can do anything, and the radio and the telly, worth a lot more to the BBC than they probably realise. And as you say, same with Claire Balding before, a real asset to our coverage that you have a genuine sports presenter. There's no knock on anyone involved in our sport who does the same thing, but he does Match of the Day when Lineker's not there. That's a genuine, credible sports presenter for the worldwide, nationwide audience. The
NFL show as well, which is a sort of similar tone as well. They have a bit of a laugh on there, don't they?
Generally, Rugby League coverage is better than people give it credit for on Sky. And for whatever reason, they don't want to give them credit. And the BBC coverage is not terrible. I'm not saying it's not perfect either, as some people would have you. The best thing about COVID-19 is Robbie Hunter-Paul's not allowed to go on the pitch.
Absolutely.
Which, as we remember, Baz and Tez used to do when Sky had the championship all those years ago. And they don't do it anymore, do they? There's a reason for that. But Sky have the try music, which is rubbish because it's been the same for 30 years. Get rid of that, and they don't do it on the full. I don't know. Anyway, I've delayed enough, haven't we? We've gone over an hour. On the pitch, we had one game this week. Despite my great confidence that we'd turn it around, we turned it partially around. 58-0 one week, but this week the Catalans win. Possibly the scoreline bit flattering maybe towards the end when the Catalans stopped for a bit, but they're through to the quarterfinals, and both teams, in fairness, dealt with conditions well, because it wasn't the best of weathers at the John Smith's Super Arena.
Am I taking that? Yeah, no, it wasn't. It wasn't.
I'd look away at that point.
Listen, it was better than the week before, wasn't it?
Much better.
So that's good. Wakefield were better without being good. They obviously paid the price for having a few youngsters in there. I mean, Jowett and Croft were absolutely murdered, weren't they, by Drinkwater? Just a Drinkwater torture, as I called it on 6 to Go, which you should listen to that as well. I've got to get that plug in. That's gonna happen. That's gonna happen when you've got a Challenge Cup winning halfback, an experienced, talented halfback up against a couple of kids there out on the wing. That's going to happen. They gave it a go, didn't they? I thought they had a dig, Wakefield. They just lacked the quality. I agree the scoreline was a bit flattering, but there was a point there where they were in the game after that goal, which apparently went over, to my amusement.
It was like England in '66. It was rallied. Never down. But
it came down to the double sin binning for me. That was a key moment. McIlroy and Pitts being sin binned. Obviously, McIlroy with the first offence, but Pitts was the one that gave away the penalty. And then from that, Catalans score with Ben Garcia scoring from dummy half, which he wouldn't have been doing had McIlroy still been on the field. So that's a talking point for Wakefield. If you want a hard luck story, at that point you're 8 points behind. You arguably should have had the penalty there. And who knows from there? But from that point, then that was game over, wasn't it?
I mean, it was interesting afterwards that in the press conference, Chris Chester was asked about that moment and praised Jay Pitts for actually standing up for his teammates in the situation. Obviously, gave away the penalty, but I guess after a performance the week before where it looked like 13 individuals, at least they look more like a team this week.
I think apart from clearly not going through to the next round, everybody won on Saturday. Now, clearly the Dragons won and go through. Wakefield won a lot of their respect back compared to the way they'd been taken to the cleaners against the same opposition the week before. The BBC won because I think, in all fairness, they had a real horror that they'd be commentating on something that had no interest after about 5 minutes, but there was enough of a contest for them to talk about for the full 80. Wakefield finished strongly, which is always something to take into your next week's game, and the Dragons look like a decent team. So I think that the weather helped. There too many tries from kicks, which was determined clearly by the conditions, but I think it was better than most of us expected predicting it last week.
Josh Drinkwater's interesting, isn't he? Because he did nothing at Hull KR, did nothing at Lee, and yet when he's at Catalans, he's almost a world-beating halfback.
Wonder if that's got anything to do with the packet. I wonder if that's got anything to do with the pack that he plays behind.
Possibly. And his halfback partner is not bad either. Steve McNamara made sure in the press conference afterwards to say that Drinkwater put in the kicks for the tries, but Maloney's kicking in general play was also crucial for them moving around and pinning Wakefield back. And I think two times in the game they pushed the Wakefield attack over the line to force a dropout. So complete team performance from the Catalans. And as we said, they, depending on what happens with travel, they are going to be a dangerous side, it seems, in both competitions left now this season.
Yeah, absolutely. And we joked about it earlier, but this is the year, isn't it, where we kind of want them to win both the comps, because it won't actually ruin the sport financially, but maybe it'll do something for the sport in south of France on the back of them doing so. So yeah, they're a real threat, aren't they? Not just in the Challenge Cup, in which they have form, but in Super League, where they're second in the league and looking pretty good. You do wonder whether the travel's going to catch up with them, if they're going to have to keep coming over here, and if they can't have home games, that's an issue that needs to be sorted. But yeah, they've got talent, and they seem a completely different team to the first week back against St Helens when they got hammered. Maybe that said more about St Helens than it did about Catalans.
If every team's going to have flat spots, which clearly they are, not least with the schedule increasing, then to win as convincingly they did in a cup tie, and to be honest, it doesn't matter whether you win 36-24 or 58-0, the record books will just show you progress to the next round. Then I thought that was as impressive a display by the Dragons, because it's really hard when you get to a point in a knockout game that you know that you've won it, to keep that intensity going. You don't get any extra kudos for not putting your cue on the rack and saving a little bit of your energy for the following week. They've got a really big game this week. So, I think they are impressive. They've got virtually every position covered. They've got Sam Tompkins to come back, who clearly was the outstanding player of the week before. They look the real deal.
Mentioned Bernard Gouache earlier, but he's having to dig into his pocket every week at the moment to keep his team on the field, again through no fault of his own. Maybe we should have gone to him. Maybe he could have given them some meaty products for the post-match. Yeah,
it's costing him enough. He can't be giving out free chops or whatever at the end. I think cutting some slack.
Is that what they are?
Give him some free advertising, perhaps.
I don't know what his company's called. Bernard Gouache's meaty products, whatever that is in French. I don't know any French.
It's Gouache Viande.
Gouache Viande. If they want to send us some meat, we'll take that as well.
I see he's asked for the next round of the Cup to be played in Perpignan.
And why not? They have been gone.
And he's got a case.
There's no reason, if they can fly here and be in this bubble or whatever it's called, why can a team from here not fly there and do the same thing? Fly there, go straight to the ground, hang around until the game starts, do the game, come back. Why can't the same happen?
Are you talking about one game or all the games, were you saying, Phil?
Well, no, he said he wants his next sixth round game to be. I mean, whether then the RFL turn around and say, well, actually, if we're taking one team, it might make sense to take three and play a double header. The trouble is, of course, that they can't all fly together. But it is Salford, and they are next to Barton Aerodrome, so they could literally get on the flying boat and play within 3 hours, couldn't they? Provided there isn't a wind blowing in the wrong direction or a bird up their flue or whatever it is that delays flights.
Phrases you didn't expect to be said.
I've just been. Phil will understand this reference more, perhaps. I've just been listening to Martin Kellner and Edouard Lapaglier's podcast, and I can imagine what Edouard would have said to a bird up the flue. Check it out, listeners. Check it out. There are no more talking points from that game, were there? I mean, Insigne looks good on the wing. He looks very tall to cover Wakefield's crisis of having no wingers. But yeah, it was a game. It happened, and Catalans won. So, well done to them. Before we get to the predictions, is there anything else I haven't thought of? I think we have now covered everything. Apart from the fact that this will mark our 2 years since moving to from a sandwich shop in Leeds to above a bookshop in Leeds, and working for a slightly less benevolent dictator. No, that's not the phrase I'm looking for.
Autocratic monster.
You got old Uncle Ken. We miss him when he was paying us. We never revealed why we left, did we? We'll leave that for another day.
Christmas party.
The Ken Bates Christmas parties, everybody. Hello to all the Leeds United fans out there. Welcome back. The predictions, which we didn't bother doing last week, but they are back now because we have another exciting 5 game. Oh, by the way, are you on any of these great rugby league debates the fella doing this week, Phil? Because you're a great rugby league person.
Not that I know of.
I mean,
I suspect they've all been pre-recorded, but
Paul, you're not
watch them.
So it's on now, so I can't. There's something on the Our League app to watch.
Excellent.
I don't know what they're doing today. Greatest player, so that'll be good, won't it?
I think it'll be the same panel for.
Who's on the panel?
I'm going to tell you now. I'm loading it up now. Hang on. Oh, it's only
JJ.
Yeah, JJB's on it.
Tony and Claire, the Divine Claire, and Dave Woods.
Dave Woods and Karen Morehouse have releasing a statement about COVID fame tonight. Dave doesn't look as good in his headphones as you. There's Dave Woods. Well, there's the George Hotel. I don't know if they're going to illegally rebroadcasting this now.
Oh, Kath. Kath's on it.
Oh, yeah, Kath. I was interviewed for a job once by Kath Edmonton.
This show is so straining for content that it started to live stream other shows.
We pay for it, I think. Oh, that's a BBC, isn't it? It's different. We start on Saturday as the Catalan Dragons travel to Warrington. So they get the benefits of hanging around Halliwell during the stadium for hours as they take up. It's top versus second, isn't it? It's Wigan versus Catalans. How's this one going to go, Paul?
Oh, good question. This is a really interesting game, isn't it? Catalans have got the form. Wigan a little bit more rested, but they've been looking pretty decent as well, although they almost let it slip against your boys, didn't they? Made it certainly a lot harder work of Wakefield than Catalans did, which would suggest that maybe Catalans are the better team right now. I really don't know on this one. You've got to be... I mean, Catalans are very, very good right now, but standard of opposition, with respect, over the last couple of weeks hasn't been the greatest. And playing the odds, Catalans are not going to be this good for 4 weeks running, are they? So I'm leaning towards Wigan in this one. I think they'll be rested. They've been looking fairly decent themselves. I thought, Harry Smith's done a decent job stepping in there for Tommy Luai. Is Luai still sidelined at the minute? A Lachlan? Have they got a Lachlan back yet? Do we know? Are you down with the team news, Richard, to help us out here or not?
Out that kind of information.
No. Yeah, it'd be a tough one. Really tough one to call. I'll go Wigan with no confidence whatsoever.
I think this is a great test for the Dragons. You're absolutely right that people like John Wilkin have been saying, this method of travel may suit them on the day, but after a while it catches up with you. There has to be a fatigue factor. So, it improves team spirit because you're together for a concerted period and it's easier to keep your mind on the job in hand. But it must become draining if you're doing it 4 weeks on the trot. That said, Sam's back against his old team. So clearly we'll be getting at least a 1 or a 2 match ban in this week's fixture. Wigan, I think, against Leeds, Adrian Lamb said he wanted to see that kind of a performance, that it lifted a little bit of a level, because I think he realised they have to be a lot better against the Dragons. I just think that the Dragons have forced themselves to play in a slightly different manner under these new rules. The ball is getting into the hands of the half-backs and the backs more than it was when they were a more forward-dominated side. I think they do pose more threat. Do like the wing combination they've got at the moment. There's a core of ex-Wigan running through that team, so they'll not be lacking any kind of motivation. I'm going to go the Dragons by 2.
I think I'm going to side with the Dragons as well. Of course, you remember back in the midst of time when the cause we all celebrated was Pride rather than anything else. This was going to be the big Pride Day at the Pie Dome, and they're going to make a big song and dance about it. Whether they're going to be wearing rainbow laces for this game, I don't know. But, you know, you mentioned, Paul, that form line of both these teams are playing against Wakefield in recent weeks. We are the benchmark. We are the form stick, if you will.
The benchmark in a very different way to what it's normally meant. Yeah.
Yes, we are the benchmark. Catalans by 4. Followed swiftly by them Leeds Rhinos taking on the Salford Red Devils. Go on, Phil, you can go first on this one.
I just really feel for Salford at the moment, because clearly they've been inactive for 2 weeks. I think it was Ian Watson said the best they could hope for are a couple of training sessions. That will energise them in some respects, but I just think they won't be match fit. If Leeds can start at a pace, big miss for Leeds is Cameron Smith, who I think has been their best player this year. Fulfilling the potential that I think a lot of people thought he had when he was signed in the first place, particularly carrying the weight of a name like that. But they are 2 very evenly matched teams. I do like the way clearly Ian Watson coaches his sides. I do think Leeds have got some issues at the moment in the way they've readapted following the restart. But if Robert Louis is back, I think that will bring the best out of Reece Martin, and probably Leeds will just about have enough, as you would expect me to say.
I'll back Tui Lolohea then to come back to haunt Leeds again with another really good performance like the one against Hull. I think, it's an issue for Salford not having played for that length of time. It should be fresh at least. But yeah, I was impressed with them against Hull. I thought they looked pretty good. Were able to cut loose at times. Leeds, still some ways to go in terms to get to where they need to be. I think it'll be a close one. I'm going to go Salford. I'll go Salford by 8.
I'm just going to side with Leeds just based on the fact that at least they've been able to train for the last couple of weeks. And that's going to be an advantage to them. Unfortunately for Salford, they've been screwed over by no fault of their own. So Leeds by 6. Sunday, 3 games kicking off at 1 o'clock. Hull Kingston Rovers taking on the champion St Helens, Paul.
Well, this will be the easiest one, I guess, to predict this week. Hull KR, obviously, were very entertaining for a little while. That game against Warrington, they could cause a few problems playing that way again against St Helens, but Saints' defence is just superb at the minute, and they're piling on the points too. They just look red hot. I can't see Hull KR having the quality or the physicality to be able to cope with that Saints pack. I think they're just going to get run over, to be honest. Saints by 28.
And the massive disadvantage for Hull KR again is that the fixtures have not been kind to them. You know, they played 1 game and they've had virtually a month without playing, and then we'll play St Helens and Wigan in a space of about 6 days, and that's a really tough ask. The downfall of Hull KR the last time they played was they just made too many mistakes, and in the end Warrington got them on the back of their own mistakes. If they do that against St Helens, they'll be chasing their tails. So I'm going with Saints. I think the fact that Saints ground out a very impressive win against Castleford by not playing well will have pleased their coach. They've gone 180 minutes without conceding a point, which is astonishing under the new rules. You just can't see anything other than a convincing St Helens win.
Yeah, Saints by 18 and over 2.5 shots of Sean Wayne in the crowd when they've just shown Morgan Knowles do something, if it plays. That's followed by the other Hull team, Hull FC away, Warrington against the Huddersfield Giants. I mean, Phil, how do Hull come back from this one? Because we mentioned Salford have had 2 weeks off, but Hull have actually had the players being ill or showing the symptoms at least.
They are under massive pressure anyway, because I think the manner in which they came back before all of this story broke was no different than how they'd gone into lockdown, and that proved to be a massive disappointment to Andy Last, to one or two of the other players who have columns in newspapers, who said, I think we've got an attitude problem. On the back of that, to then go through this 2 weeks whereby they didn't know if the symptoms that they tested positive for were going to come out. I think it's a really, really tough ask for Hull, and I think they'll feel the pressure as well. The weight of expectation of all their fans is now starting to become a millstone, I think, because of the way that this year's gone. So I think they really are going to struggle. Huddersfield, again, they've been really solid coming back. They probably do need to open out the play a tiny little bit more. Obviously, not having Lee Gaskill has affected that, but Aidan Caesar is one of the top players in the competition. He can make any team pay, and that Hull at the moment can't get a settled halfback combination. Huddersfield have got a guy in one of those positions who clearly could dominate a game like this. So I am going to go with Huddersfield, and I don't think they'll blow a side away, but I can see them winning by about 12.
Given Huddersfield's recent look and results, you're tempted to go Hull by 1, aren't you? But yeah, I think Phil's right. I think Huddersfield have been pretty impressive and really unlucky actually in the last couple of games. Hull, I expect a response from Hull this time. There has to be one. If there isn't one, then the pressure really is on. So I expect Hull will be better. But I fancy Huddersfield to get over the line this time. I think it'll be a close one. I'm going to go Giants by 4.
The one thing I wonder about Super League at the moment is, I know coaches shouldn't be under pressure because there is nothing to lose this season. But there's the stalking horse, and it used to be Sean Wayne, but now it's Brian McDermott, the most successful coach of this era. He was just twiddling his thumbs somewhere, possibly in Europe. I don't know. I remember
he'll be hugging a tree somewhere in Scotland, I think.
Maybe he's looking for Boris. I don't know.
I hope he finds him.
Huddersfield hammering Hull FC at Anfield last year. And I think they'll win again. I'll go the same as Phil. I'll go Huddersfield by 12. And we close the weekend off with the main event of the weekend, as Wakefield travel to face the Warrington Wolves at the Halliwell Jones Stadium. Yeah, go on, Paul. You can go first. I'm happy because you said Hull Saints was the easy one to predict. So obviously, you think this one's much tougher.
No, not really. No. Listen, as discussed, Wakefield were better this past weekend, but they're down on troops. They are struggling. They're hurting a bit. I think they've got a little like Hull KR. They've got something in them that can cause Warrington a few problems. But I just see Warrington having too much strength, too much structure to their play. I think they'll take the game to Wakefield and grind Trinity down. Actually, I think it's be reasonably comfortable for Warrington. They'll score a ton of points, to be fair, Warrington, but I would say 16.
They'll score to the points with 16.
Warrington by 16. No, they'll score more than 16. They'll just let in a few more, I think.
I reckon this may well follow the same pattern as Warrington Hull KR, that Wakefield will try and do the unorthodox early on to put Warrington off their stride. Warrington don't seem fully settled yet in their best combinations. I suspect they'll finish stronger than Wakefield on the basis of the fact that your bench is so important these days, and Warrington do have some big guys to come off it. Interesting that they're offering around Declan Patton, so clearly he doesn't figure for them in the near future, even though that squads are going to be pushed to their limit at some stage. I don't want to upset you, Rich. We're not near enough for me to offer you a handkerchief, but no, I think Warrington are going to have to hit some kind of form relatively soon if they genuinely are going to make that top four, because there is going to be a logjam of sides for third and fourth spot. At the moment, they just don't seem to me as strong as some of those that are vying for it. Yeah, I'll go Warrington by 12.
See, if I said Warrington, I have to hear the 4020 TV master. You can't hear what I'm saying. Maybe that's what I'm saying. But no, I've lost my glasses now. Jacob Miller, who's looking more and more like Brad Davis as the days go by. I think it's the hair. He's going to get the drop goal that wins the match. It's interesting you mentioned Deck Patton, because I was there at the game at the end of last year. I think it was the round before the final round when Patton managed to play the ball into touch, which is something I don't think I've ever seen before. I don't think I'll see again. He's one of those young players who was heavily hyped by somebody on this programme who's not quite worked out for him yet, but there's still time at the World Cup next year that Sean Wayne will have indeed Deck Patton and or Jordan Lilly, that's his name, in the house for England. He can play for the England Probables or the Exiles or Wales or someone, I don't know. Find some blood from somewhere else in you and you might get to that World Cup still. I'm avoiding saying it, but wait, if you'll buy one, sorry, I don't care. 2 years we've been doing this in our new place, even though we're not in that place at the moment. Thank you all for your support in those 2 years. The magazine's still out for new books out this week as well. Then that's the
Tony Collins, People's History of Rugby League, 125th anniversary celebration of this magnificent sport of rugby league. There's just a space on Paul's bookshelves to fit it in. He's done a fine job there, filling some of the gaps.
That's because I'm reading Wolf Hall at the minute, so there's a gap there.
No, but a couple of weeks ago, it looked a little bit bare. You've done a damn fine job.
Since my birthday, I told you I was getting books for my birthday, so that was the haul up there. So, well, most of it anyway. A couple of fillers as well, but I'll be honest, I haven't read most of them.
Well, let's be honest. We've all got books like that.
What are they for?
It's a bit of light reading, particularly the one about the Troubles. I'm looking forward to this one. Should be fun. Say Nothing, which maybe could be
should be our motto.
So, yeah, exactly. Some of the rugby league players can learn from, maybe from Cold War to Hot Peace. Looking forward to this one as well. Maybe that'll be fun.
This is the new 4020 book club.
Book club, yeah. Get Gemma Tonight back.
Yeah,
he's just buying thick books because they fill out the shelves more easily.
Absolutely.
Buy more books. You don't have to read them; just buy them. That's the message.
People's History of Rugby League, by the way, looks very interesting. Just to give that on a plug, I will be checking that out at some point when I've got some money. Who knows when that'll be?
Having had the pleasure of editing it, I think everybody who gets it will not be asking for a refund. It's a belter.
We will get the good professor on the show at some point, but if he was doing every other podcast, there's no point. We'll get him on before Christmas when you need to sell some more. Paul, all the best. You've got nothing to plug apart from all your podcasts you're on.
Yeah, just 6 to Go podcast. If you enjoy some of the poor jokes that I've told on tonight's show, then listen to that. There'll be more on there. I
must have missed them. When were they?
So apart from that, not really doing anything really. So yeah, nothing else to plug, mate. No. I just came here for the free pizza. Does it arrive now? Is that it?
That is the pizza. Papa John's, where are you?